radio and jazz ladies out there. This is your boy Satchel Armstrong, broadcasting live from the cabaret in the sky. And when I'm not busy doing my soloing on my two-horn, I just tune in to the Artivists presents We All Be News and Radio. Oh, yeah.
And welcome, Black family, to another wonderful edition of the Artivists present We All Be News and Radio. I'm your host for the Empowerment Entertainment segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, B2H2, the Artivist. We got a great show for you today. Today's topic is We All Be Ferguson, 2014 Artivist of the Year, Part 2. We had our Part 1 last night. It was a great show, really interesting show. A lot of things we covered in a short amount of time. I guess 2 hours is a short amount of time, 2+ hours. But if you want to join our conversation today, please feel free to call in. Area code 646-652-4593. If you're scared to get on the air, we're going to open up the chat room. So please feel free to type in your questions, comments, concerns, and it might be read to our distinguished and honorable guests who are joining us today. And without any delay, we're going to present the panel discussion. We're going to go, touch on Ferguson, of course, why it's so important in this day and age that it happened in Ferguson, and where do we go from here? In the words of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, where do we go from here? So without further ado, we got the one and only, a true freedom fighter extraordinaire, one-time political prisoner, all-time Black Panther for life, and also the co-founder of the Black Autonomy Federation. I give you the one and only Brother Lorenzo kom'boa Irving. How you doing today, sir?
I'm fine, brother. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm great. I can't complain. Last day of the year. And so we're going to bring in some more people. I hope it's the people that, let me see. Area code 314, you on the air? Welcome to We All Be.
Hello, this is Derek Laney. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Brother Derek, how you doing, man? It's on the head, how you doing today?
Yes. I'm fantastic. Thank you.
So, Brother Derek, you actually representing the MORE organization?
Yes, sir.
And what does MORE stand for? What is that?
MORE is a community organization that stands for Missourians Organizing for Reform and Empowerment. And we work in a lot of different areas. Primarily, we do climate work. We work at the intersection of social justice, racial justice, climate justice, and we also work on housing justice issues. But in the last 4 months, we have been pretty focused on criminal justice with the murder of Mike Brown. So we've been doing full tilt, much of that kind of work.
All right, great. So I'm going to have you on, man, on the ground footwork. And also from St. Louis as well, we got another caller. 314 is Reverend Tremaine Holmes. This is a good Reverend.
Tremaine Holmes or something.
Okay, so it's not the good Reverend. We'll be waiting on his call as well. So let's get started. We're talking about Ferguson. A lot of things have been happening. I believe that it's a very pivotal moment. Hold on. Here we got. Is this the Reverend?
Yeah, this is he. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, good to talk to you. It's Reverend Jermaine Combs. He is a minister. What's the name of your church, sir?
Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in St. Charles, Missouri. But I'm with Clergy United, a group that formed out of response to the Michael Brown situation and the aggressive police response to the Michael Brown protests.
Oh, great. It's an honor to have you on, and also you're former classmates from WashU in St. Louis, so it's amazing to see you growing up and take a leadership position and doing a lot of great things for our community and in the serving our community. It's very honorable to have you on.
Man.
So we want to talk about what's going on in Ferguson and also around the country with this police brutality thing. Now, Brother Lorenzo, I want to start with you. What is your observation and takes from what's been going on so far this year?
Well, if you looked at what's happening right now, it's actually the continuation of some stuff that had been happening for a long time. I try to explain to people that the only difference in what happened in Ferguson is that the people fought back. These killings have been taking place all over the country to where the point now we can say that there have been tens of thousands of people that have been killed by police agencies in the United States. And this is over the course of, let's say, the last couple of decades, maybe we're talking about. But we're talking about more people having died in police custody or as a result of police action, having died in the United States, more black people even, particularly, since we seem to be the largest number of people who are being killed in custody. But more people have died in the United States than have died American troops that have died in foreign wars. And so we clearly have to have some kind of marker to say, well, this is almost like a form of war against our community. And the fact that it's happening with impunity from the government, that's another part of this. It isn't just the killings themselves, that's bad enough, but then it's the non-action by the government and the judiciary and so forth. So they are the second component of the this kind of oppression and injustice. So if you looked at that, and then you get to the stage where we're talking about, because for me, I've been dealing with this a long time, been organizing with this for many years, actually, and have seen people killed just like Michael Brown was killed. Just to give you some indication is that since Michael Brown was killed in August 9th this year, there have been several hundred, there have been almost 400 people killed just since he was killed in August. So to give you some kind of indication of how much this is occurring. And up until the point he was killed, tens of thousands of people have been shot and killed by the police in this country. So it's a long-standing problem. It's something that the government itself is aware of, but that the government, and they got the resources to do something about it, but the government has not done anything. So we're at a really pivotal moment in the sense that what are we going to do about it? That really is the question. I know for me coming along in the 1960s, the Black Panther Party was actually a direct response to police terrorism that existed at that time. It was the first and the only organization at that time that came along with that as an essential part of its program. And one of the things with the patrols, and I was not there with the early patrols, but I knew about them. I was part of that, had started become part of the organization by 67. I had become part. And when they merged with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. But at any rate, here's the deal. The organization came into existence with an understanding that it was combating not just the cops. We're not at war just with cops. We have to understand that it's the government which allows the police. First, they hire the police, and they allow them to commit these atrocities in our community. And until we understand that, part of what we have to do is to pressure the government. I'm not saying to make it necessarily stop per se, but we have to pressure the government to beat this back at the very least, because it's happening with impunity now. And so for me to look at this year and so forth, in large measure, to look at this thing over the course of a lot of years, and the only difference is that in Ferguson, there was an insurrection, and it's important to understand that as an insurrection, a long-term struggle. It's, in fact, the longest act of resistance, a singular act of resistance of any city in the country at any time over the last 50 years. It was, in a small town, you wouldn't necessarily think this would be the place where you would pick, but this is what has happened, and this is what is happening. So the issue for us is, what do we do in this period now to beat this back? And since we are seeing that even massive demonstrations, large numbers of people are protesting today than there's ever protested any time in American history against police brutality, or police terrorism, as we call it. And we have to ask, how effective has it been? And out of this, I really believe it's going to come two kinds of movements. One is what we've seen already, the pacifist, peaceful protest movement, as they call it. And then the other is going to be armed self-defense in urban areas. I think you're going to see more and more of that. And this is done actually out of basic self-preservation. You're going to have young people who are not just going to, on an individual basis, shoot it out with the police. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually going so far as to take over the issue of policing, take over the whole issue of community control of police. We can't. It won't be in the form or the fashion like it is right now. That's really important to understand. I understand that you cannot take the existing force, which is a force created as a occupying army of our community. You can't take that and just put a black face at the top of. We got a black face in Memphis who's allowed the most police killings of anywhere in the country in the last 2 years. So it's not a question of that. It's a question of community control of the police. And ultimately, it's a question of pushing the police out of our communities. And we have to start dealing with our own social problems with our own social programs. So that's what I look at this moment, not necessarily long term, but at this moment, what I'm looking at is the rise of a new kind of movement that's coming on the scene. Now, how do I know this? Is because I was in Dallas a couple weeks ago, and some young brothers there have formed, brothers and sisters, have formed what they call the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. And it's a paramilitary force of several hundred people the last time we checked. And so on the local level there, and they're also spreading the word out to other parts of the country, they're building a new movement based on, the example of the Black Panther Party, not necessarily the model. So I think this is what we're going to see. We're going to see armed self-defense in this period.
That's great for that. Wow, that's a great assessment. And also, Brother Derek, moving on to you, I want to get your assessment of the, because somebody got their radio, something, computer turned up, they can turn it down, get some feedback. I want to get Brother Derek's observation and your stuff will take on the ground for me in Ferguson, in the St. Louis area.
Okay, if I understand correctly, you want to know my observations about what's happening on the ground right now, or because I think things have been changing over the course from the murder of Mike Brown on August 9th until where we are today. It's been an evolution of tactics, strategy, and community involvement. So just want to get the proper context for what you're asking me.
Yeah, the evolution of the movement, like from your perspective from day one to up to this point. Yes.
Right. Michael Brown was murdered by Darren Wilson, and all of the accounts of the witnesses tell the story that it was true overreach, over-policing, and an instance of extrajudicial killing. It was like he acted as judge, jury, and executioner. And the witnesses tell that story, and yet he got off with the grand jury not indicting him. Since that time, what we found was that there was a raw, emotional uprising of particularly black youth. And I'm talking people from age 15 to mid-20s to late 20s, being out in the streets and resisting the authority of the police to say, go home, be quiet, shut up, let it be business as usual. The youth said, no, we're not going to let it be business as usual because we're outraged. We're angry that you keep killing people that look like us, young black folk, and we're not having it. We're not taking it anymore. And they were brave enough to withstand tear gas, to withstand the rubber bullets, the dogs, the tanks, the militarized police. They withstood that for days and weeks, and the police continued to come back to try to intimidate. And I like the word the brother just used, and I use it too. They terrorized citizens. These, what we have created was as an occupying force in this country. Our police departments have become an occupying force in our cities, and they have been using their force to terrorize citizens, specifically in black and brown communities when we speak up, and we've seen this all over the country. So from that raw emotional uprising in early August, what we've done is my organization, the Organization of Black Struggle, of which I'm a member, and other organizations have really done a lot of on-the-ground work in organizing people, putting together a jail support system where people who are arrested are bailed out of jail, putting together teams of street medics, so when we are out in the street protesting and people get hurt, there are people there on the spot to help out. With that, we created a safe space in a church that was near many of the areas in Ferguson that people were protesting. We had a cache of supplies and food and first aid equipment. And what we've done is we moved out of that crisis management into more strategic positioning with putting forth demands for very systemic changes, because it's not enough to simply put somebody different in charge. It's not enough to ask that one officer is reprimanded or fired or even given criminal charges. The system does not work. It has never worked. The police are an outgrowth of slave patrols. Literally, it was formed. Police departments were formed out of slave patrols to go and hunt down Africans who escaped slavery, and then they just coalesced into the modern-day police officers. And so that system has to change. The way it interacts with the communities of people of color has to fundamentally change, and that's what we're asking for. So right now we're at the point where we're doing a lot more strategic work. Even today, in St. Louis, right now, at this very moment, there are a number of people, there was an action today, that went downtown and one by one entered the police department, St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, under the guise of getting police reports and filling out papers and whatever business people take care of at the police department. And they occupied the St. Louis Police Department. There's a hashtag Occupy the Police right now, and they are downtown right now protesting, and a few have been arrested. Some are still occupying it, and there are others outside, many outside, protesting the police brutality in the system as it stands. So right now we are, to sum it up, we are at a place where we are being more strategic. We are harnessing all of the energy and all the people and all of the forces at our disposal to change the system, and it is beyond just the murder of one individual, which is important, and we have to remember those names. In St. Louis, in the last 4 months, we've had Mike Brown, we've had Kajim Powell, we've had Von Derek Myers, and most recently Antonio Martin to be murdered by cops. So we have to uplift their names and remember them, but we also have to remember that it is a systemic change that we are looking for, and that's what we're on the move to do now.
Oh, thank you for that. And also the good Reverend Brother Tremaine, you represent that new generation of that long honored tradition of the black church involvement on the front lines of social justice movement throughout our history. What is your take, from your perspective, about the evolution of the movement and where you see it going?
Well, I think my brother from Moore spoke very eloquently about the evolution of this movement, that it started out as a raw emotional response to the murder of another black man and a brother, and it has morphed and transformed into not just folk engaging in an emotional response, but now operating in strategic responses to systematic and systemic issues of injustice, not just police brutality, but this is the main focal point at this point in time. I think that he's right on with that, and I think that some other things that I've seen in this adaptation of the movement is that what has been seen is the inability of not just the white power structure to fail to respond appropriately to this recent incarnation of young black rage, but also the black power and political structure to respond effectively to the frustration and hurt and pain of their black children. And I see that not just in older civil rights organizations, but also in the church. In the standpoint of even black clergy, why don't they just go home? And the thing that's amazing to me is that we have a generation of black clergy in St. Louis that are so well placed, so well put in position that really they could have changed things around with simple phone calls. But the problem is that one, they were the younger generation of the civil rights movement, so they saw the mass meetings, but they really didn't see all of the organizing that took place so that those mass meetings could happen. So they're foreign to the understanding of community organizing, and there is a disconnect between the current black power structure and the younger generation. Because the truth of the matter is, I'm only 32 years old, and I am treated as a young buck, even in the black church. So what I see is not just the inability of the white power structure to respond effectively, but also the inability of black leadership that we have at this point in time to respond effectively. Now, my personal view is that as this movement progresses and as this movement moves along, our generation, the millennial generation, will continue and has started to form and morph civil rights organizations that speak more to the needs and more to the situation and more to the systemic and systematic issues that we are experiencing at this present time.
Wow, that's great stuff. There's so much to think about. Y'all gave me so much food for thought. I'm sure people still trying to digest the starter meal, the appetizers. So we're going to really get into this. And also I want to bring one more person to discussion, organization out of St. Louis. You are on the air. Can you please state your name and organization that you represent?
This is Kenethia Miller. I am the outreach coordinator with St. Louis International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. The St. Louis branch of Impedum.
It's an honor to have you on, Sister Miller. And can you also, I asked them the same question, give your take on the evolution of the movement and where you see it going?
I see it going in a direction that is very positive, actually. We're out here doing outreach for the current Black People's Grand Jury that will be coming up on January 3rd and 4th. And to see the enthusiasm in these youngsters, especially, actually wanting to become involved and get the education that goes along with, the uprising and the need to actually express themselves and be heard and be understood for where they are and their issues. And it's not, I don't mean to say it like, it's their issues, our issues as, a collective people. I see, because they're so young and because the revolution always stood in the hands or rested in the hands of the young anyway, I see it moving in a very positive and bright direction. I was just speaking with someone this morning who was talking about how we really do have to be mindful of how to reach the youth and reach these ones that are out here getting in the streets and really putting it in for what their concerns are and, how the police are reacting and responding to them. But I am hopeful and very encouraged by their ability to see what the issue is and actually want the education. I think we have somehow disconnected from our community. We have disconnected from ourselves in such a way that we have believed in part that the youth are okay with being ignorant or being, outside of understanding an organization. But I've spoken to so many over the time that I've been doing outreach for the Black People's Grand Jury that I see something totally to the opposite. And I was very encouraged actually by the action of Ferguson during the time after Mike Brown's killing. I was very encouraged to see that we were not going to just allow something else to happen to us. We were actually going out into the streets and trying to make a difference. We were, we showed the emotion that went along with, having our own future snatched away from us and stolen away from us. And it continues to happen. But the fact of the matter is now we have to be more organized, and I see it evolving in such a way that we're going to get these youngsters organized so they can't touch us,
Oh, thank you for that. And I was listening to everybody speaking and stuff like that. I see, it is a lot of enthusiasm. I see echoes of Selma and Montgomery. We were talking about the Montgomery bus boycott last night, where it actually lasted for 381 straight days, consecutive days. But it also, a complaint of the Ferguson situation, gives me a lack of clarity of what you want out of this whole thing. People doing die-ins and protesting and occupy this and that. what is the end game for this? And can black folks actually get any type of justice in this system to begin with? Can black folks get anything out of this system?
Well, this is Derek Laney. I would say definitely the end game, as I mentioned before, is systemic change. What we're dealing with is a systemic problem. And I'm talking about in the core of all of the institutions, and particularly criminal justice, in the United States, there is an ideology of racism, of white supremacy, that attacks black life, that attacks black and brown people and communities. And what we're saying is we understand that this system was never designed to benefit us, and what we have to do is make the demand that there are changes at the very foundation of how you interact with our community, not just changing parts of things, but things like making sure that there is some parity with people of color on the force as well as the white folks, making sure that the people who are on the force patrolling the communities come from those communities, not just look like them, but actually are their neighbors. Things like the body cameras that President Obama had suggested that he was going to put the money for, I don't think that's even close to an answer, because all it does is give you the point of view of the police officer, and what it does is just more invasive monitoring of citizens. But what we want is systemic change. That's what we're looking for. And the question is, can we get it? We absolutely have to demand it, and I believe we can get it. I think we've invested too much in this country to simply allow it to allow portions of freedom and access to be off limits for us as people of color. We can't allow that. So we have to struggle for it, demand it, and continue that struggle. I don't think it's something that's going to happen overnight, but it's something that we are ready to continue a protracted struggle for.
Okay. Anybody else want to answer that?
Yes, this is Kenethia Miller. And to piggyback on what Brother Laney said, absolutely, I believe, we're never going to get any justice in this system as it stands. And I think that, and we at Impetum actually believe in the thought that it's not about playing the hand that you're dealt, but it's about changing the game that you're playing. No, if we're not going to get anything out of this, there's no point in continuing to invest even our hope that this thing is going to change in our favor. It doesn't. It hasn't changed in over 500 years. It has not done anything any differently except serve the white power structure and serve imperialism and colonialism, to the point that, we're struggling in ourselves to reconnect with ourselves to even make these changes. And one of our objectives is to push the whole black community control of the police agenda, so that we have the control over this entity, this occupying force, to actually hire, fire, discipline, and control that agency that's coming in among our own community, carrying guns and again oppressing us to a certain degree. I agree again with Brother Laney when he was talking about, they shouldn't just look like us, but actually live among us. I actually was born and raised in East St. Louis, and I can honestly say that I went to high school with, the police officers there. I knew the police officers. I know the police officers over there still to this day. So it brings a kind of different. It brings a different type of relationship into view when these people are not just, somebody on the corner. If we know the people standing out in front of the 7-Eleven or whatever the convenience store is, are we as apt to point and shoot as, an individual who doesn't understand the makeup and the context of the community itself? So it's very important that we understand that. And then, if they act outside of those parameters, which support them protecting and serving, then we can get rid of them. You know, those things that help support their families and feed them, we can take that away from them, like they're taking away from us all the time. We should not be afraid when we see police cars behind us. Our first reaction shouldn't be fear and being scared that they're going to do something to us as opposed to doing something to help us. So we want to change the context of that narrative.
Well, Brother Lorenzo, I want to get you in on this because from what I get from you, reading your posts and stuff and following you and your organization, really the police department is not worth saving. I mean, we shouldn't even deal with the police at this point, correct? We shouldn't even be involved with the police.
Well, she's talking about community control, and, you know, we have to be very careful with assuming that, you know, that's anything more than a temporary phase, even if we were able to do it. I mean, they still represent the same authority, the same white power structure, you know, owns and controls them, and they are the ones doing this. It isn't just the police. We're not just at war with the police. We're at war with the system that put the police out there in the first place, so we need to understand that. But I think if we look at it just that as a temporary measure, that means that we have to build our own forces of self-defense, and as I said, and also be in a position to deal with our own social problems with our own program. You know what I'm saying? It has to be a revolutionary program. But I just don't see, you know, that we would have community control as some kind of thing run by the Department of Justice or something run by the downtown. We have to, that's what has to be restructured. We have to take away the power base that uses the police as a weapon against us. And it will always use them as a weapon against us as long as they are in power and over them. So I don't agree that the same police who have been murdering us can all suddenly be, you know, reorganized and made to serve us. You know, I think we have to be able to put them in a position to disarm them, to demilitarize them for sure, because they have weapons, military weapons given to them by the Pentagon. So there's a deep question here, a deep issue here that goes beyond just, you know, the cops, who the cops are, and so forth and so on, or all the cops black. Will that make that much of a difference? Most of the cops in Memphis are black. The police chief is black, and it hasn't made a difference. In fact, it's resulted even more in more killings on behalf of the people who are ordering this. So we are only in control of the police when we understand that they are a tool and agency against us, and they are controlled by somebody else. And so we got to talk about how we get control of them, and can we get control of them as long as this kind of system is in place, this neo-colonial system is in place. So we have to talk about that kind of thing too. Otherwise, we're playing, you know, just fiddly sticks. You know, we put a black face in a high place, or a politician, or over these cops who don't really run anything. The business class runs it, and so we got these kind of issues that we have to deal with. This is what we're finding out, but we should be finding out over the course of the long term up to this point, because these killings have been taking place like clockwork for years, and what is happening is a scheme where they'll take and have a so-called citizen review board. That was one scam that they ran for years. And so they could turn around and use community control of the police. Somebody said community policing is their response to community control of the police. So we have to be very careful with this, that we don't fall into their pit or their trap. We have to have control in the community itself. We have to talk about how they engage with the community. But that's just a stage, an early stage. Ultimately, we have to talk about building our own, you know, self-defense force to remove them and replace them entirely.
Go ahead.
I would like to express that first and foremost, the system isn't broken. I think that what African Americans need to realize is that for almost 500 years, if we have not come to realize that the system is not broken, but the system was never designed for us in the first place, then we haven't been paying attention to anything that has been happening to us. And I think that the first thing that we have to understand is that the system ain't broke. the system was never designed for us in the first place. So when we fight and we say that we've invested in a system, we did not invest in this system. Our labor was stolen for the promotion and the enrichment of this system. We didn't really invest in it. We haven't really been able to invest in this system except for the last 55 to 60 years. So the system ain't designed for us, first and foremost. My thing is that this, as the elder statesman said just recently, that this is a systematic and systemic issue. It's not just about police brutality and community policing. That is a symptom of a larger issue, that we do not have control of our communities, be it police, be it economic, be it political. For example, just in the state of Mississippi, about 50% of the black male population of the state of Mississippi has been disenfranchised with the ability to vote. This is bigger than police brutality. The police brutality is a symptom of a larger systemic issue that is rooted in white supremacy and white privilege. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And let's just be honest. My belief is this: we can put a black face on something, but if we don't change the systematic issues and the systematic root of white supremacy, that white people are better than everybody else, and white privilege, that even if you are a poor white person, you have more privilege in this society than Oprah Winfrey or anybody else, we're never going to get to the real root of the problem. Because my thing is this, is that I know a lot of folk got happy and excited when Brother President took office in 2008. But my situation is this, is that it don't matter who's at the top if the whole pyramid is crooked. We as a community have to realize that we have to stop, and this is my thing, I'm sorry, brothers and sisters, we have to stop focusing on one issue at a time while we have people in power that are playing checkers with us while we are playing chess. We are dealing with one piece at a time, and they are dealing with promoting and keeping an entire system in place.
Wow. Also, I want to say, too, I think it's very important because what's missing, too, as well, is the history narrative. That's why it's so good to have so many different generations represented on this phone, especially somebody like Brother Lorenzo. I mean, he was part of that freedom fighting generation that's being reborn, it seems, in this generation currently. The white supremacist system never takes black folks seriously unless we start arming ourselves or when we threat of arms. Like you think about Nat Turner. Think about the American Civil War where black folks were able to fight for their freedoms. You even think about the 60s. Like when people got this myth about the nonviolent movement, I can recall talking to the old-timers or elders about the March Against Fear. What people don't understand about the March Against Fear that was completed by Dr. King and others after James Meredith was shot on the highway in Mississippi was the fact that Dr. King and them had the Deacons for Defense out of Bogalusa, Louisiana, came there to protect them. So they had armed defense. Think about Robert F. Williams, Negroes with Guns, out of Monroe, North Carolina, Radio Free Dixie. He preached armed defense. You look at the Montgomery bus boycott, they had armed patrols. They had brothers that came out of World War II and the Korean War protecting the black people that was participating in the Montgomery bus boycotts. Because what people don't understand about that was that a lot of police officers and bus drivers were raping black women in that area around that time period. But all that stopped when the brothers started organizing and started arming themselves. And you think about, we talking about gun clubs, but look at the 20s where Marcus Garvey had a legion. He had secret battles with the Klan. The Klan respected Marcus Garvey and the African Legion. They did business. They supported their movement. But what I'm saying is, we are never taken seriously until we start arming ourselves and practicing the art of self-defense. That's a lot. Anybody else want to say anything?
Well, brother, can I to express this to you, sir? And this Tremaine Combs.
Yeah, brother.
Frederick Douglass expressed the fact we can go even further back than that with the Stono Revolt and things of that nature. That power concedes nothing without struggle. And the thing is that, and the problem that we have is that I think one of the things that worked during the civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s was that there was, because of segregation, a strong African American community, a strong Black community, and I think that had political, economic aspirations that were developing, and I think that the preceding generations after integration, matter of fact, I believe Dr. King even expressed the fact that we cannot allow integration to be controlled by white people, or else integration will become assimilation. And I think that what we are discovering is that integration became assimilation. And I think that's why when I see what I see in St. Louis at this time, you have older Black people that can't understand why young Black people are so upset.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
And I think that it's not just about armed self-defense. I agree with that. I think that is a very critical piece. You know what I'm saying? And I know that some brothers are like, wow, the preacher is talking about armed self-defense. But if you go back in our history,
right,
you had Black preachers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Before there was a Nation of Islam, before there was Marcus Garvey, you had Black preachers that advocated self-reliance and armed self-defense. So my thing is that I agree with the armed self-defense piece, but my thing is, if we don't add engaging in building an economic infrastructure in our community, not just by simply getting jobs that white people will allow us to get, but by promoting and encouraging entrepreneurship and then building a political base on top of that economic infrastructure, the armed self-defense really ain't going to mean too much.
This is Derek Lane, and I want to definitely appreciate what's been said, and I agree with very much what you're saying. That is definitely has to be a multi-pronged approach, and it has to be that economic base and political power. In regards to armed defense, I think that discussion, that thoughts about that have to be rooted in the history of what's happened. When we talk about in the 50s and before then, we were as a community arming ourselves against criminal elements, the Klan and other people who were just coming and snatching Black folks and lynching us and hanging us, and we had no choice but to defend our homes and our families. In this current age, we're talking about the aggressors, or is the state. Now, back in the day, those Klansmen were protected by the state, but they were not agents of the state. Today, we are in a struggle with the agents of the state. We can look at history of the Black Panther Party and see how they were targeted, infiltrated, and broken up with all kinds of tactics, including murder. And I think at this day and age, if we are going to think about what ways can we be free, we have to be very intentional and think very long and hard about arming ourselves, because what will happen, in my opinion, is groups who talk that, groups who do that. See, right now, it's different. The white folks are out in the boonies arming themselves and got these training camps and paramilitary. Mm-hmm. But those same folks arming themselves, the white people, are not under attack by the state. They're not, white people are not targeted for being white and punished and at the rate that we are, and criminalized and put in jail and murdered by cops. They're not doing it to white people, and still these white folks are out there arming themselves. We are under attack as of communities of color, and if we start arming ourselves, the response to us doing that will not be the same as white people shoot at cops and don't get killed by cops. They get arrested. There's a story that happened just 2 days ago. A white woman was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Did you hear about that, Brother Ron?
No, go ahead.
She was going around in a car. You can look this up. She had on full body armor. She was going around in a car, shooting at other cars, like bullet holes in the cars, pointing guns at other people, led the cops on a chase. They chased her down. Finally, when they stop her, she points a gun at the cop, and still this white woman was arrested, not shot down dead, not choked to death, not beaten to death in police custody like black people often are. Many of the times we are unarmed, and that is the result. We die at the hands of cops, even if we're unarmed. But white people get to be armed and live. Like in Denver, Colorado, the
movie theater with the Batman movie.
Right.
Guy in the full body armor, assault rifle, kills 12, injures 70 people, is arrested. The guy in Pennsylvania just recently, a month ago, shot and killed 2 cops, led them on some long chase, was arrested. We're talking about a different dynamic, and I think we have to be very clear that if we talk about arming ourselves, we cannot outgun the cops. And I think we're setting some young folk up with this talk of we got to fight the power with guns for some really, because I don't think a lot of our young people are disciplined enough, have enough know-how to do what it takes to be armed, and I think what they'll end up doing is being targeted and eliminated, meaning murdered, by the state. And I just think if we had an army...
They're already being targeted and murdered by the state.
Right, exactly.
They've been targeted and murdered by the state, with the guns or not.
But okay. I hear that. This is just my opinion, and what I'm saying is, yes, we are already being targeted by the state. I think it will be ramped up, the targeting us, and the fact that we will shoot back won't spare our lives.
Well, I want to say,
opinion. I don't think it's a question of strictly armed self-defense without a political context of political empowerment, but not political empowerment in terms of running for office within this system. We need to be clear about that. We need a way of using, as you say, I don't agree in terms of any kind of entrepreneurship and all that. I think we do need to deal with economics, but economics can't be divorced from politics. Or, you get this personal empowerment, personal enrichment, which is what you got now. You got a class of black millionaires so who do nothing for the community. We have to talk about community-based solutions, I think it's real important to understand. So if you look at it in that context, we're not talking about just running out. And even the Black Panther Party didn't just try to go out talking about becoming just a militia. It became a political party. And whatever attacks were made by the government as opposed to just them running and shooting it out with the cops. They never saw that as a solution. So I think that we need to really be clear of defeatism and the idea that we have to be pacifists. I mean, we really need to be clear about that and be understanding that we have to look for a variety of solutions. We need a several-pronged strategy program, I agree, but we can't be trapped within the context of what the government says we can do as opposed to what we will do as a matter of our political will. And so I think it's really important that we don't get into this idea that for instance, some people are saying that the only thing that can come out of these killings and so forth is some kind of peaceful protest movement.
Right.
And that clearly is not the case. We don't know what we'll have to do up to this point. I'm not saying it's a question of an all-out struggle, all-out shootout or something. I don't believe in that.
Well, I have a question for you, bro. I have a question for you. I have a question for you. How do you see? And because I don't want to necessarily debate this, but I want to understand how you see armed struggle playing out. So if people were to say, "Yeah, that's a good idea. The brother's making sense," and start arming themselves, how do you see that playing out? Let me ask the question.
Okay.
Let me ask the question that I want to answer to.
You asked me how do I see it. I'm trying to see.
Okay, but I have a specific question I'm asking. If people see your idea as a good one to arm ourselves, within the next year, within the next 5 years, 10 years, how do you see that playing out? What do you see are some likely consequences of people taking that up? Black folks.
Likely consequences to people taking it up?
Likely consequences, yes.
Well, it all depends on the context, just as it did in the 1960s.
What's the context you're talking about?
Well, wait a minute now, brother. You asked the question. Now, do you wait on the answer, or do you want an answer? Or do you want to do the answer yourself?
Wait,
you say it depends on the context. I'm saying the context in which you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to answer the question. I think that we're not talking about just armed struggle without a political context. First of all, armed struggle is a different phase from just armed self-defense. You have the right to self-defense.
Right.
Armed struggle is a stage, you're talking about underground and all this kind of thing. We're not talking about that at this stage. We're not talking about that at all. We're just saying that we need to have the ability to take over the question of policing in our own community. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying that we have to go out and and just have our armed confrontation with the police, as much as I am saying that we need to design a solution to take over the issue of policing in our communities.
Okay, and what are the likely consequences of doing that?
What are the likely consequences? Well, we don't know yet. We don't know until we attempt it. We don't know until certain things are attempted. You can't find out. But we think that we can at least introduce the issue so that the movement, that our communities at least will have that choice. But if you only give them the choice of pacifism or electoral politics, then this is what we'll get. We'll get continuation of what we've been having for the last 30 years at least. You've had basically unrestricted use of deadly force by police agencies all over the country. And this has been happening for quite a while. So we need to at least have another possible solution.
But I'm still confused. I'm still confused. So you're saying you're not talking about armed struggle with the cops, but you're saying arming ourselves for self-defense against the cops, to defend ourselves against cops? I don't understand what you're saying. What would the armed struggle?
Here's what I'm trying to tell you, brother.
What would the arming of ourselves result?
Let me, if you will allow me to tell you, I'm saying that instead of just a question of armed self-defense and just taking the streets against the police, I'm saying that we have to raise the issue of black people having the right to police our own communities.
Right.
Despite what the white power structure does downtown, we're talking about autonomous and independent means of doing that. So that's what we're arguing for. We're not arguing for necessarily just all of a sudden we're going to go and one day we're going to go down and shoot it out with the police. That's not what we're talking about.
No, I'm not saying you're saying that. So you say defend our community against those within our community?
I'm sorry?
Defend our community against whom? Against the black folk that live in our community, the criminal element in our community,
that's not what I said. That's not what I said. I said
I'm asking for clarity.
We're talking about community control. First of all, we're talking about community control of the police. But then the next stage has to be removing the police, and we start to police ourselves. That's what I'm saying.
So so the weapon would be to defend ourselves against the criminal element in our community, not against the cops.
Well, the criminal element in our community is caused by the external conditions that are being forced on, economic and social.
Okay, but I'm just asking a simple question.
So we're talking about the police.
Well, I want to. We want
to stop police brutality, and we will entertain any solution. But basically, what we have to say is that we want to remove the police as an agency in the community. Period, because the police being in our communities is a paramilitary force for the external community. They're not a force.
We understand that. Yeah.
Can I, if I may express something, Tremaine Combs, if I may express something, just to back up a little bit from what my brother kom'boa said. I think that first of all we have to understand that the experience of being terrorized in America that the African American community has experienced since it has been here has always been state sanctioned and has more often than not been perpetuated by state agents. Even with the uprising in Wilmington, those were agents of the state. Even with the Klan during the early 20th century, if you go back and think about it and look at it, it was the John Birch Society that controlled the Klan. It was older, upper middle class white. It was upper class white money that controlled lower class white violence. And oftentimes that upper class white money were in political positions and political offices. So there has always been state-sanctioned violence against the black community by agents of the state. So that's one thing that I would like to say. The other thing is that if we are scared about being killed because we pick up a gun to defend ourselves, I believe that we've already lost.
I agree.
Because the truth of the matter is, the truth of the matter is, we are being killed already unarmed.
Right.
Yeah.
So my thing is, you know what I'm saying? So you know, do we? I don't think anybody is talking about armed rebellion. Nobody's talking about armed rebellion. But I think that there needs to, and I think that the reason Brother Ronald, that you expressed was that we don't know the history. So when we hear about the Black Panther Party, we assume that they were engaging in armed rebellion because that was the narrative that the dominant power culture spin.
Right.
But if you really go back and read the Jet articles, if you go back and read the black newspaper clippings, 9 times out of 10, the violence that the Black Panther Party experienced, and I'm just using the Black Panther Party as an example, they experienced it because it was the white power structure that went in because they did not appreciate not just the fact that they were engaging in political power, but that they were also engaging in community building, that they were also engaging in socioeconomic building, things of that nature.
Excellent.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to understand the history is that we have always been killed by agents of the state. And now my thing is that should we move? Nobody's talking about moving towards armed rebellion, but we are talking about, I think, in one realm, advocating a sense of self-defense that can only come from understanding that my life has value, and if the state that is supposed to be put in part to protect me won't protect it, then I have, and I'm going to say this as a preacher, the God-given right and the God-given responsibility to defend myself and my family and my people and my community.
I'm going to have to join your church, brother. That's all I can say to you.
For sure.
Yeah,
I'm going to say something to that, for sure. I am in favor of people defending themselves. Myself, if someone is coming at me or coming in my house, I am going to definitely defend my family by any means necessary. And I would advocate anybody doing that to defend themselves when they are being attacked and their lives are threatened and their families are threatened. What I'm talking about is not a fear of anything. What I'm talking about is efficacy. I'm talking about what is the likely outcome of arming ourselves. How will it move us forward? That's the question I have that I haven't heard an answer for.
What
I'm saying is, you haven't heard an answer that you accept. Different from hearing an answer.
Okay, I haven't heard a clear answer to that question. If we arm ourselves, are we arming ourselves so that when the police come into our neighborhoods and harass us like they've been harassing us, that we're going to get into shootouts with the cops? Or are we arming ourselves to police our community so that then we turn our guns on people who look like us in our community? What are we doing with these guns?
You got to.
Specifically, not any theoretical thing, but specifically, what will we do with a gun once we get it?
My belief is that, and this is Tremaine Combs, brother. My belief is that it is about community policing and community empowerment, and that's why you can't have the guns apart from political power and economic infrastructure, as I expressed before, because a lot of the times, a lot of the violence that takes place in the African American community, you know what I'm saying? Yes, you're going to get people who are just violent. You know what I'm saying? That's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? But I would wager that most of the criminality and the criminal element that we experience in our community is connected to the economic substratum of economic disenfranchisement and political disenfranchisement, more so than people just waking up and saying, today I want to go kill somebody. Today I want to go murder somebody. So in that respect then, and also keeping in mind this, is that even in the human body oftentimes has to defend itself against itself. So my thing is that does it take place that sometimes we may have to police ourselves? Absolutely, but I guarantee you that if it's your brother versus a white cop that's going to try and police yourselves, you may have a different outcome. You know what I'm saying? And the gun may be a last resort instead of a first response.
I want to say this as well. I think it's very important because Brother Tremaine made some great points. When he was talking about the Black Panther example, he talked about the black media. there's a lack of a black media presence in this period. The reason why a lot of things were successful with the civil rights movement and any other movement that we had in this country, because we understood the power of the press. If you name me one significant black historical figure, they all understood the power of the media, whether it be Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells Barnett, Malcolm X, or anybody you could name them. They were all involved in the media. So they started their own newspaper and things of that nature. And also, I just saw a story recently where 2 white men at an Idaho Walmart started up with BB guns and were arrested. Okay, you think about John Crawford in Ohio, who had a BB gun he was holding in his hand and was murdered by the police. But you had 2 white men that actually used BB guns to shoot up a Walmart, and they were arrested. And my thing is this, people, especially black Pan-African people, they always talk about nation building and whatnot. But you understand that every true nation has a military, has a Department of Defense. They have a way to defend themselves. So these are very important things that people need to think about. And I'm glad that people understand the difference between armed self-defense versus actually starting a armed struggle. And we can't be afraid to pick up the gun. We can't be afraid to defend ourselves because the first law of nature is self-preservation. So, Brother Lorenzo, I know that somebody got a lot of loud noise going on here. Let me see. Brother Lorenzo, I know that I don't want to hold you too long. I know you stayed over. You said an hour. Do you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation before you go, and also a way to get in touch with you?
Well, one thing we need to be aware of is even while we're sitting here talking about this, young people are already organizing their answer, whether we like it or not. I mean, that was the whole thing in the 60s, whether the old civil rights establishment or whatever accepted the fact that the Black Panther Party was in existence and it was doing what he was doing, whether they accepted it or not, they did it. You know what I'm saying? They started doing it. And the movement lasted for 16 years under tremendous attack. Let's be aware of that as well. But I think that, and having dealt with these young people just a few weeks ago down in like I said, in Dallas, where they've actually formed and have been in existence since 2008, they formed an organization, and they call it the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. That's just the name of it right now. Because under their state's laws, they got open carry. Now, white folks walk around with automatic weapons and everything else under the sun. As you said, they're not attacked. But these young people have managed to organize and stay alive and prosper and build their movement since 2008. You know, so they're teaching other people to do the same. You know, so I'm working with them. You know, and everything. And I believe that we need another direction in addition to mass struggle. I'm not saying that we should throw out mass struggle or that it's not effective, because I've invested too much of my own time as an organizer against police terrorism for years. We're talking about going back 30, 40 years now. And so I understand that, but we need an alternative. We cannot wait, the youth can't wait, while they are brazenly shot and killed in the street and the government refuses to take action. And they're going to push the issue one way or the other to whatever extent it needs to go. And they understand that we're not talking about at this stage just picking up arms and you know, having a phase of armed struggle. We're not at that phase. We don't have popular power. We don't have political power, you know, on any basis, really. And but we do have the community. We need to organize the communities. We're talking about community self-defense as opposed to just individual self-defense. Individual self-defense is important, but it's not the same as community self-defense. And we need to be able to have that. We need to be able to have it whether we use it or not. Whether we, you know what I'm saying? At least the idea of even having it is a deterrent to certain types of police misconduct. You know, so we need to understand that as well. I got to go. I appreciate everybody's comment, and I hope you had a decent exchange here. But
how can we get in touch with you? Like, what's the best way to contact your organization?
Well, you can reach us. The Black Autonomy Federation on Facebook. We have a Facebook page there, and you can also reach us at organize, ORGANIZE .the.hood, HOOD at gmail.com. And so those are two ways you can. And you can always call too, and I'll give you that number off the radio.
All right, Brother Lorenzo, we want to thank you. And also, Brother Lorenzo and Sister Jonata Irvin, they do a great radio show, a weekly program called the Black Autonomy Federation Radio, which will come back the second weekend of January, I believe. So check that out. It's a very powerful, informative show. And I want to thank you, Brother Lorenzo, and wish you a happy New Year. And we love you, Mandy, and keep on producing and pushing, sir.
All right. Thank y'all for having me on. Had a brilliant exchange, and y'all, the New Year's coming up. Thank you.
That's right.
Y'all. Love and peace. Love and struggle.
And also, I think the thing that people talk about the system, I don't think black folks can get justice in the system at all. And the only thing we can really get and focus on in this system will be economics. Because everybody will have their economic game together in this system have some type of protection from that system. So I just think that's the only thing we can get out of this system at this point for black people. There ain't going to be no justice because it's just us. So we can get our economic thing together.
Well, Brother Martin, I have a question. If, from that perspective, if you think there can never be any justice, then what's the answer? I mean, if I felt that way, honestly, I would leave this country if I thought there was no hope of getting any justice. I would just leave it. I'd go somewhere else where I thought I could live with some sense of justice.
Mm-hmm.
What's the answer if we can't get any justice?
Well, that was a good question. I got this phone line that's lit up when you just said that. You asked that question and people want to get in on a conversation. So I guess I hit the phone line, Brother Derek, to see what people got to say about that. If you don't mind, sir, we go to first caller is 256. Y'all in the air. Welcome to We All Be.
I'm going to only be able to stay on for another 10 minutes possibly because I have another commitment.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you staying on at all. I appreciate Brother Derek for all your insightful comments and questions. The 256, go ahead. Welcome to We All Be. Can you turn down your computer, please? Turn down the computer.
Yeah, this is James Waller.
Hey, Brother Waller, how you doing? It's good to have you. Go ahead.
All right, pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm good, man.
I've been listening for a while, and I've been enjoying your show. But all the things that you're seeing with weather and everything, God is getting ready to show people that He's God. He had me prophecy things with weather. He had me prophecy things with racism and violence. It's all on my Facebook page. I've sent letters to you telling people what was going to happen, where weather was going. I told the governor of Alabama, Bob Riley, that great storms were going to rest on Alabama. I told Barack Obama that people were trying to kill him at least 2-3 months before any arrest or anything was known in the media. I told people that I told Janet Jackson and Michael was going to go free when prior to Katrina, Sandy, and Hurricane Sandy, and what's the other one? Irene. I put on my page that God was getting ready to trouble the waters. Prior to the Sandy Hook massacre, I told Governor Chris Christie that there was getting ready to be a great tragedy. 3 days before. Same thing with the thing in Indonesia, with the big tsunami in Indonesia.
Yes, sir.
So God is getting ready to take over this thing. He's going to show people that He is God. He changed my skin tone to reddish black, guided me to scriptures, all the things you're seeing. And you know this, I think I sent you at least once a testimonial letter, all these things that you're seeing in the media as far as racism, violence, weather, everything. Even telling people what was coming, how it was coming, and what's going to happen next. God's going to take care of all this. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't be making efforts, but He's also disappointed in the world that they don't respect Him anymore. I'm not a perfect person. I'm surprised and in awe that He has been using me. But by the same token, I've been, even at my worst state, I knew that God was God. And if somebody had told me all the things that I have been able, that God has blessed me to say is going to happen, things beyond man's control, and to see them happen, I had my face as Koreans on so many occasions. But then again, I looked at how He didn't, how He hardened Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh, which tells me that Pharaoh would have let the people go, would have let the people have gone a long time before that, except for God hardened His heart. And God told me it was for His part of it was His glorification of Himself and of Moses. So God is serious.
I agree with all that. I want to thank you for those statements and stuff like that. Like, this too shall pass. But I want to ask you this, like just one question, give me a quick answer. Can black folks get justice in this period, in this time period, for anything? You talk about how God is mad at people right now.
Oh, but you have to include one other. But I'm hearing God say there's going to be justice, but it's going to come in His own way. That's the purpose. That's the purpose of it. We're in the last days. That's the purpose of it, for God to bring justice. But He's going to be heard. That's the thing. God has never relinquished His throne as being God. He, put Jonah in the whale's belly because he didn't listen. And done several things to other people. That justice is coming, but it's coming in God's way.
Brother Wilder, I want to thank you for that, man.
Purpose. He doesn't do anything for nothing.
Yes, sir. Everything. Yeah, every rhyme has a reason and a season. I want to thank you, Brother Wilder, once again for your insight. And we love you madly, and Happy New Year, sir. Thank you so much. And we're going to keep it moving out. Yeah, bro. Yes, sir. Keep on listening. And we're going to move. We're going to keep it moving. Find this answer. I think we'll go to, let me see, 816. You are on the air. Welcome to We All Be. 816.
Hello.
Hey, is Sister Renee?
Yes, it is.
Hey, how you doing, D? Sister? It was good to hear your voice.
Doing,
I'm good. Thanks for listening and calling in.
No problem. I was listening, but I know the other gentleman had to leave. But what I was going to ask him or kind of bring up was, the fact that he said that, God is going to take care of this, or, they'll be punished or what have you. And to me, I feel like that type of mindset, which I know comes from Christianity, is what has kept black people so subdued for so long, is that we keep saying that, they're going to get theirs, they're going to get theirs in the end, they'll be punished for it. And because of that, that keeps us in the same sedentary state versus actually doing something and moving forward. We keep putting it off in that type of way and saying, the Lord is going to handle it. And my thing is, now you're hearing a lot of people, we're in the last days. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like that mindset is very dangerous and is very destructive for the black community. And I was just going to, bring that up to the gentleman.
Oh, Reverend Combs on the line. Reverend, are you there? Brother Tremaine?
Yeah, I'm still here, brother. I'm still here.
Yeah, you listen to what Sister Renee, you listened to both our last song, the first caller before her, and now what she has to say. What do you think about all that?
Well, I believe wholeheartedly that God is in the midst of everything, and that God is working things out in His own way, in His own season. However, I do not preclude that means that we have to, that we are given the right or the option of shirking responsibility for doing our part in what God is doing. I think that a lot of times people use, God is going to do it as a crutch, as our sister says, but I don't think that fatalism is just endemic to a Christian mindset. I think if one really has a biblical Christian mindset, one has a keen understanding of both God's sovereignty and personal responsibility. And not just personal responsibility, but communal and collective responsibility. So I do think that God is in the midst of this. I've seen that even at the early stages of the protests. I believe that God is in the midst of it, but that does not mean that we don't have a part to play. I'm reminded of what Frederick Douglass says, that really he prayed for God to deliver him out of slavery, but he did not get the deliverance that God had for him until he started praying with his feet.
That's right.
So I think that we can't. I think that that incarnation of that mentality is dangerous. But I don't think that just exists in a Christian mindset or in a Christian point of view. So I agree with the brother, but that does not mean, and I agree with the sister to an extent. So because I believe that if you are a Christian is somebody who takes personal responsibility for their actions and for the actions of their community. because of God and the plan that God has for us. So that's my answer to that.
Well, thank you. You answered it well. I mean, I think you gave some great points. And I want to also do a quote of Malcolm. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said that the Negro Revolution will be controlled by the federal government, but the Black Revolution will be controlled by God. So, I mean, this is an interesting times we're living in. And I want to get one more caller, Sister Renee. I want you to stay in on the discussion. Got area code 731. Welcome to We All Be. How you doing today?
Good afternoon, brother. Glad to be here and enjoying the discussion.
So what's your name, brother?
My name is Lasana Diaspora, and I'm calling from Jackson, Tennessee, the Jackson-Madison County Plantation, as I call it. He had to leave, but Brother Lorenzo actually introduced me to your program. And
I'm on that. Okay, thank you.
Quickly, if I can, I'd like to add another name to the national discussion because I am the father of a young black male who was murdered November 6th by Jackson, Tennessee police. Shot in the back.
Wow.
Have the medical records to show, and we've been trying to get his story out, and in the quest to pursue justice for my son, Q. We call him Q.
Okay.
He was named, by the way, for the hero of the homicide. And Brother Lorenzo is a little familiar with my story, but
Tell our story.
I'm speaking from that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tell us your story. Tell us the story about what happened. I mean, we want to hear it.
Well, this is what we have. And first of all, I mentioned the date, November 6th, and even at this point, we have yet to get anything official from the police department. Other than what they did initially was throw out something that sensationalized and gave the impression that my son and the police involved in a bodily struggle, my son was killed. Now, I already have, documentation that belies that because it shows that my son was killed in the back and apparently from a distance because there was no exit wound. And we also have multiple witnesses that have already come forth and give a consistent depiction of the police executing my son. So this is what we know. That's very reliable and consistent and unsolicited testimony. These witnesses came forward. But we are in a place where intimidation and repression rules, and it's a place where you don't have a whole lot of community uprising. There was one, like they put out the misinformation to begin with to just give the impression, there's somebody, he tried to kill a policeman and he got killed, have what was coming, that kind of thing. My son did not have ID on him, which was not uncommon. So they didn't know who he was. It's clear to me that they figured they had just some John Doe thug, nigger, if you will. And I'm portraying their thinking because that's not a term that I use, regularly. But didn't expect any comeback or pushback, which of course they were wrong, and now find themselves having to trip over a story that they're going to be hard pressed to get out of. But as I said, as of today, we have nothing officially from them. Only with our initial press conference, because we sought legal counsel, very, very quickly, realizing that would be necessary. Only with the initial press conference did we even pressure them to initiate an independent investigation, which should have been automatic with the police shooting, but it wasn't. So we did that, but again, we are now about 10 weeks out, and still we have nothing. There is just for those who just would like to get some more information, more than I know I'll have time here for on your show. There's a Facebook page, Justice for Q Diaspora, Justice for Q Diaspora, and there's some more on that going from our initial press conference and so on and so on. And what my son's sacrifice adds to the discussion, brother, you all touched on it, and brother Lorenzo as well. This idea of blackface being placed on it, because one of the things they're trying to do is try to play it down until because supposedly a black cop was involved. Let me say first that when as our case goes further, there's a lot more detail to be brought out than there is out now. But that's the thing. So the media, some in the community want to play it down. Oh, it was a black cop, as if that makes it insignificant. But it's another case of where simply it's blackface on the system. Because what I was met with, while it's supposedly, if we go along with that story, this black cop, gunned them down, cop or cops. What I was met with from the moment I stepped into the hospital was a gang, and I emphasize the word gang, of white officers obstructing me, physically body blocking me, preventing me to even have so much as a conversation with the receptionist. And every attempt that I made to kind of get back to where my son was, like I said, the more aggressively I tried to get back there, the more aggressive they became in blocking me. I could not and did not get a conversation with medical hospital personnel that entire time. A policeman or policemen were in the room with my son's body the whole time. The ME, who was supposed to be responsible for his body till the coroner came there, admitted that they handled the body, which was improper. And my point, which is the short point on that, is there was a cover-up going on from that moment on. And, of course, I got a sense of that then, but I did not know until the next day when I did the legwork and went and got a medical document that showed my son had been shot in the back. There was an exit wound. The police lied to me there at the hospital that night, right to my face, straight looking me in the eye, and told me my son had been shot in the chest. Mm-hmm. And that was only after some persistence that I got that information. But my point is, so if for those who want to try to dismiss it, okay, well, it was a black cop, that's not the same. Well, it was a gang of white officers defending the action of that black cop who acted, consistent with this dynamic of black life not mattering, not being valuable. This is nobody. Will be judge, jury, and executioner on the site. That's what happened with my son. So we're talking about the same thing. It's the same dynamic. But again, we're in a community where that is ready to kind of stand up and jump up on the kind of thing as, say, like in the Ferguson or in New York. But that's what we are up to in fighting for justice for my son, getting his story out, getting the truth out. And revealing, just what I'm finding already now is a pattern of this type of intimidation and abusive activity in the local police department when it comes to the black community and black males particularly.
Was your son armed? He's a shootout with police? The claimant was he armed?
No shootout. Okay. They and again, like I said, going on just what was put out, because again, they have put out nothing officially. Now they claim an altercation. We don't get detail beyond any of that. So what I'm saying is what they are claiming. And just in that, and by that only in what was put out. Relayed through the news media as, what they get on the site. Because otherwise, nothing official, no report, nothing has come out officially from them. The only official thing documented is what I got the next day, showing, how my son had been killed. Again, what we know, and again, what eyewitness testimony verifies is that my son was unarmed and posing no threat, and not in a position to pose a threat at the time that he was just summarily executed by the Jackson Police Department. Now, we have strong, unwavering eyewitness testimony on that.
I'm signing the story now. It said that the officer was stabbed.
Right. And again. You're getting what they put out. Right. So that in saying I'm not confirming any of that. Again, because we don't have anything official. And again, when you throw what they did was, and the way the media treated it, if you throw out, say, man, stabs or attacks a cop,
right.
killed. Just with the stab itself, well, that can mean, you know, a whole range of whatever, you know, but it can certainly come with the idea that, okay, somebody just kind of, you know, got a butcher knife or something, and, you know, just suddenly going after a cop or whatever, something like that. Again, that's not what the eyewitness testimony verifies. So what I'm getting at is the witnesses that have come forward and are on record with our investigators belie what they have put out, and most definitely confirm that my son Q was executed, unarmed, unthreatening, a totally unthreatening situation, but they decided on site to go ahead and execute him.
Well, actually, you said that the white cops at the hospital was blocking your way to see your son, correct?
Yes.
Was he alive at the emergency? Yeah. Was he alive at that point? Was he still alive?
But this is all not really clear, brother. And again, to my point, because they were so determined in obstructing, you know, what I got in the report that I saw basically suggests to me that he was essentially dead before he got to the hospital. Now, I think they have tried to claim that he was pronounced dead at the hospital.
Right, that was said in his report, in his newspaper article.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you look at the clip, and I don't know if that clip is online, but I looked at it several times. I'm looking at them when my son is being removed from the scene, and there certainly is no sense of urgency on the part of the EMTs or the folks on the scene. And I can see, you know, his leg hanging limp and so forth. And then when I look at the report and what it says about any vital readings at that time, yeah, again, I truly question the story of over at the hospital, and because I certainly question their determination to keep alive somebody that they, you know, had essentially, you know, for all intents and purposes, just murdered, you know, shot in the back. I don't think you want this person alive to tell his story, you know. Right. So yeah, I question, you know how much life there was when he got to the hospital.
Well, it's like the question I had about when Antonio Martin, the brother who got killed at Berkeley at the gas station, the mobile gas station, before Christmas Eve. He, you know, they said he was on the ground for 30 minutes still alive. And ain't nobody, I mean, the cop didn't even call for ambulance. And there was people calling, you know, for ambulance and stuff like that on the scene. So I'm saying, what type of secret they want these boys to keep with them to their grave? Like, why are they killing our males and our women? And why are they treating them less than human? When they do it, like with Mike Brown, they had this fight out there for almost 5 hours. His brother Antonio Martin, they had them just, you know, on the ground, still alive.
Brother, at that point, obviously, they're in cover-up mode. I mean, you know, what did the police at Walmart, who they're calling their union, right?
Right.
So clearly, certainly they're looking at, you know, how they're coming out on the other end of it, because clearly they can see to, you know, whether or not, you know, the victim is going to come out on the other end. You know, I mean, he's not, you know, if they have anything to say about it. You know, so, and on the one hand, they're acting based on these preconceived notions, you know, your own sight, you're black, you're young and male, you're in a place where, say, I think in my son, I think some of this figured into it, just as with Trayvon, place where they didn't figure he belonged, because we live in a place that is, you know, occupied mainly by older retired whites, but have been living out here most of the year. We don't know everybody, but, you know, it's that prejudice. And again, that's why I say it doesn't matter that you put blackface on it, but there's just that determination that when you see a blackface in a certain situation, you know, all presumption of criminality goes with it, and any consequences, however fatal, you know, are to be expected and to be excused.
I think that, brother, this is Tremaine Combs. I think that the reason why this stuff takes place is not just simply because they get in cover-up mode, because police have shot white people and they called a paramedic to the scene. I think that what we have to understand is that white privilege can only exist when other people are considered less than. White supremacy can only exist when other people are considered less than. And what we see and how these things happen is that, and how things take place is that what we're seeing is the fulfillment of an understanding that brown, black, yellow people are not as valuable. Their lives are not as important as those that have the complexion for protection. It's not just simply they're in cover-up mode, but the lives are not valued even in cover-up mode. And I think that's the thing that we forget. It's not just so much that police are covering up, because the truth of the matter is they don't value us enough to cover up anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's very important too, because we don't control our media, and that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know how to control the narrative. We don't have a counter to what they're saying, because they justify all these killings of unarmed black brothers, or even brothers. He's a thug. I mean, he might have been caught one time for playing hooky from school, but because he got caught and suspended, or he's a thug because he skipped school, or he's a thug because he smoked some weed. I mean, they always got this thug narrative with us, and then the hero cop and this and stuff like that. I mean, your words create world. So words create world. We're not controlling our story when these are. I mean, it really disappoints me when I talk to black folks that are educated, quote unquote, who are well-to-do, who are decent people, but because the white people news thing, just how it went down, they go along with the white people say, the white people news, the corporate media news. They don't even understand the power of telling their own story. And also, look at Bob McCullough. Right? That's what Brother Tremaine said. Bob McCullough knew that people doing the grand jury process were lying. He knew that witnesses, quote unquote, were lying, but he included them anyway. He allowed Darren Wilson to testify for several hours. Who does that? Why? The thing about it is the fix is always in, and you are not worth even, you just 3/5 according to them, right? We're not even full human beings, so how can you expect full justice or due process when they don't see you as a human being, when they see you as a cartoon, as a character, not as a real person? It's either subhuman or superhuman, but never human. You're either subhuman or you're superhuman, but you're never human. That's insanity. Mm-hmm. So how can you beg the devil for mercy? I want to go to another call. We got people popping up, and we're going to go to 929. Y'all on the air. This is Ali.
Hi, how are you? Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
I wanted to send my condolences to the gentleman whose son was shot on November the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yes, we have to give him acknowledgement, and I'm sorry that your story didn't break out in greater news. But I think for us to have, systemic change, our mentality has to change. That means you have to know who your enemy is and how they do things, how they operate, and meet them in kind. So, a group that comes to mind that actually, they know who their enemy is. Anyone sometimes who doesn't look like them. I do love this group, but it's the Hasidic Jews. No one will dare mess with a Hasidic Jew in New York, at least from my observation. They are considered to be like they're considered to be extremists because they're Orthodox and they kind of segregate themselves from even other Jews. But they're smart enough to make alliances with those Jews who are not Orthodox, and those Jews, they hold all sorts of positions in government, in other city agencies, and in politics. So that if an indiscretion takes place within their community, they all swarm. The people from the ground, the people from politics, the people in the agencies, they swarm, and it's dead from the moment it's, the thing started. It's dead in a day. And I think if black people start to change our mentality, remove that assimilationist, if that's a word, mentality, and are of one accord, this would stop the moment it started. But we are not of one accord. So, I mean, some of us already are in politics. We hold good positions in city agencies. But when something happens to a black person, they don't jump on the scene. And I think yesterday on Brother Hurd's call, one of the callers noted that President Obama and Eric Holder took a long time, maybe 4 days after these police brutality cases started, to actually come forward and say something, and they were so passive. So we have to, our mentality has to change, and I think one major medium that can help to reshape our mentality is the media, because that's the number one tool that educates minds all over, black, white, anybody. It's the media. And I think, I want to applaud Brother Hurd for doing a great job. I've been listening to it for a while before even calling into his show. So I wanted to, commend him for the work he does. I want to commend the people who are listening, because we'll take this information and bring it back to our prospective communities through the show. So I think Brother Hurd's show is one solution, and in terms of helping to reshape the way we think, helping to bring us to one accord, so that when something happens in the future, we'll all descend like Hasidic Jews and put an end to it the moment it starts. That's my commentary.
Well, thank you, Sister Ali, for that. We love you, Manly. And I want to just back up what she said. I was in New York around this time last year, and I took the sightseeing tour of Brooklyn, and we went to Williamsburg. And the tour guide said, these Hasidic Jews, they don't believe in going to many secular things like even universities. But every block we went by, I saw an academy with a school bus. They had what they call a community. They control the economics, they control the education, and they control the culture. And by them doing that, they control who polices them. They police themselves. They have a discipline. And there's a thing, even in the religion of Judaism, it teaches community accountability and responsibility. It teaches that you invest in your people, that you take care of your people first. And what people don't understand about Judaism, that's an African religion. So who were the first Jews? Whose story is that? So we got to think about it. We got to come back home with this, because it's funny people say we don't missionary work in Africa. Nothing comes to Africa. Everything comes out of Africa, okay? People come back to exploit Africa, but everything comes out of Africa. The oldest Bible in the world is from Ethiopia, okay? It's from Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. They say the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia. I remember when I was in Watch Brother Tremaine, the black women, Jewish women, they brought over the Ethiopian Jews, right? They brought some Ethiopian Jews over, and the white Jewish people were surprised. They had black Jews. I thought Sammy Davis Jr. was a black Jew, okay? But you got the Ethiopian Jews, right? You King Solomon, Queen Sheba. You go think about Haile Selassie. Ethiopia is the only country in Africa that never been colonized. Mm-hmm. They've been invaded by Italy.
Can I
go
say
ahead.
Something?
Go ahead.
Just in addition to kind of what the sister was saying, but when it comes to the whole police brutality issue, you're not going to win against them. You're not going to beat them at their own game. You will not win in their system. This is their system. It's set up by them for their benefit, okay? If you go back into the history of the police, you will see that. The police were created by white people to protect white people's property, okay? So black people never figured into that equation except on the criminal side, and that's where we're still at now. So the thing about it to me is I feel as though we have to separate. That's the only way. Segregation, in my opinion, is the only way to do so. And when I say segregation, of course, not complete segregation, but the developing of our own within our own, putting blacks first. A lot of people love to bring up it's 2014 and it'll be 2015 here in a few hours. But people love to bring up and say, it's 2014, it's 2014. Exactly, that's the point. It's 2014 and these things are still going on. The police brutality and killings will not stop against young black men because the problem is the mentality. The problem is the ideology of a lot of these police officers. Just because something gets put on the news and is on CNN and on the internet, that does not change their own personal mentality. And if you already have a fear of black men, you already assume that they're criminals, then what is going to change about you because something's on the news? It's not. So, we have to look at separating and pulling ourselves away as much as possible.
That's definitely on the table, I think, right now. I won't go to one more. Go ahead, Brother Shemaine. Go ahead.
And I think that the sister she speaks truth in the sense that we have neglected ourselves for far too long. We have neglected taking care of ourselves. We have neglected building our own communities. We have neglected understanding ourselves. We have for too long been reactionary in our political, social, economic, cultural understandings, instead of being proactive, instead of getting a step ahead of the system for the good of ourselves. And I think that a lot of that also has to deal with the fact that we have a lot of African American leaders who profit. You know what I'm saying? Who profit from the sicknesses of their people. And I think that one of the things that we have to understand is that in the black community, the black community has to hold leadership across the board to account. And I think that one of the things that I've noticed as an African American, as a leader in the black church, is that the black community in this period is increasingly trying to hold black churches to account, but black leadership does not simply reside in black churches. and the thing is that 9 times out of 10, if we really look at those who are engaged in benevolent action, care of the community to the best of their ability, it is those black churches. And one of the things that we have to also one of the things that I recommend so much and so poignantly is that at some point we have to reinvest in ourselves a spiritual understanding of who we are. I think one of the things that allowed us to survive after slavery, during de jure and de facto segregation, during the Black Nadir, was that we had a resiliency of spirit because we understood ourselves to be kissed by God, to be chosen by God, and to be protected by God. And I think that one of the things that has produced a disintegration of our community is that we have achieved so much, and that we have appropriated so much that we have lost sight of the fact that we did not do this by ourselves, that we won it because we fought spiritually, not just politically, not just economically, not just with guns.
Oh, wow, that's powerful. Well said. You are preaching today, sir. Go ahead.
I hear what you're saying. I just want to say real quick, but I do think, that the black church does need to be held accountable for many things. And
I don't disagree.
Right. I know you didn't say that, but I feel like we have so much foolishness that's going on right now, and you are seeing a lot of churches, these mega churches, and they're putting millions of dollars into the outside, how things look. Some church put in some aquarium or something in for however many hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever. And my thing is, I would love to see the black church do more on the side of why not offer financial counseling for people? Why not do more in the aspect of reaching into the community? And I'm not saying that there are not black churches who don't do these things, but now a lot of these churches are getting government funding, and they have to push a certain agenda, and they have to, kind of do the political thing and try to sway the people. That energy of black folks coming together, deciding things for the community on a collective, that's not really there anymore. It seems like there's so many agendas that need to be met that everything else is lost track. And honestly, I feel like the black church is a detriment. Right now, look at this show that's on, I don't know if it still comes on, but the Preachers of whatever.
Preachers of L.A.?
Yeah. And so you have these preachers out here now that want to be movie stars or TV stars and reality stars or whatever. It's all about the money and their appearance and how they look, and they got these certain shoes and driving these certain cars. I mean, everything, like, this time is just so crazy. It's like people don't have any, and I'm not saying everybody, and I'm not saying every church, and I'm not saying every preacher, but we are just lost. And if you have the people who are in the church, who are supposed to be leading the church, if they are lost, what else can you expect? You have people upholding Bishop Eddie Long. I mean, what's going on? It's too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, if I can, brother Ron,
go ahead.
Ron, to my sister. You are 100% correct that there are a lot of abuses in the church, and I'm a student of history. I love history, and one of the things that I have discovered is that even if you go back to reading the Bible, 1 Corinthians, for example, there was mess in 1 Corinthians, and that was probably 30, 20 years after Jesus. So because the church is a divine and human organism in my theological understanding, because the church is made up of imperfect people, and I'm not using that as a caveat to justify their foolishness, but what I'm saying is that oftentimes we have to recognize that the church is imperfect itself, even though it strives to follow and serve a perfect God. My thing is that when I say that we have to hold the church accountable, I agree that we have to hold the church accountable. I agree that there's a lot of foolishness. I agree that that Preachers of L.A. can sometimes descend into just sheer frivolity, but so can Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, so can Love and Hip Hop Hollywood, so can Love and Hip Hop New York. You know what I'm saying? And these were shows that were on the air before Preachers of L.A. was. And I think that the problem is that in the black community, the preachers that are striving to do right don't get the press because we don't control our own narrative.
Right. I also want to say this. Go ahead. Sorry, bro, Tremaine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And I thank you, sir. And I think that one of the problems that we have, I think Brother Hurd expressed it, is that we don't control we don't control our own media. We don't control our own press. You know what I'm saying? We don't control what we put out. You know what I mean? So in a lot of instances, you have white folk who are going to monopolize and have always monopolized on African American foolishness and have always downplayed African Americans who are trying to do their best. And so what happens is that when you have the enemy controlling your narrative, he's going to put out the stupidity. He's not going to put out the churches that will pay the bill, that will pay community bills. He's not going to put out the churches that give Thanksgiving back. I mean, I'll give you an example. My church in Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church of St. Charles, we have fed and clothed over 1,000 people in 2014. We didn't have no press. You know what I'm saying? And we're not a large church. You see what I'm saying? So yes, by all means, hold us accountable. But the caveat of black leadership does not just reside in the church. Hold entertainers accountable. Hold people. Hold media moguls accountable. You know what I'm saying? Hold everyone accountable. Even hold the community accountable for the things that we engage in. The problem is not just in the black church, but this is a deeper systemic issue that is affecting and is killing the black community as a whole.
Well said. I just want to go to the phone lines before that, but I want to say this. Back in 2008, when the Reverend Wright thing with Obama went down, I had a chance to speak to Dr. James Cone on the phone about 20 minutes. And I talked about some of the issues that were addressed today as it relates to the black church. And he basically told me that we got to get back to the reason why it was founded in the first place. We got to go back to the root of the black church, the origins of the black church. Why was the black church founded? And once you understand why was the black church founded, then we could get back to that and move forward. Because the reason why it was founded because of racism and white supremacy. It would not allow us to worship with the white folks in the white church, right? Mm-hmm. So Richard Allen, Absalom Jones, all them guys did a walkout, and they started the AME. You think about all the great folks, like Brother Tremaine, you mentioned about how, in the 19th century they were talking about armed defense. One of the leading people on that was Bishop Henry Turner from Georgia. One of the leading proponents of armed self-defense was a bishop from Georgia. This is before the Black Panthers and Deacons for Defense. This is back in the 19th century. Nat Turner was a minister. Harriet Tubman was a minister. John Coltrane, both of his grandfathers were AME ministers. So this is the type of talent you come out the black church, a type of leadership that is missing in this period. It's like the black media is MIA in this period. And that's a problem. I want to take one more caller before we go. I know we run a little bit overtime, but I want to take this call. I think it's very important to take this call. Sister Chandra, y'all on the air. Welcome to We All Beat.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks for calling in and listening.
Thank you for taking. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for this show. I think I look forward to more shows where we get to hear the different things people are doing to address this, and we do need a number of ways to address it. Everything that's been talked about is very pertinent. I'm going to just make 2 points. One, the media, since that's been talked about lately, I think we really have to look at the real role that the media plays in this country in helping us to, not even helping, but in defining in our minds who we are and who one another is. The sister was talking about the pastor show. We talked about the Love and Hip Hop and all that. Those are fundamental ways that people get misconceptions about who we are, even down to the police who will kill us, even down to us hurting one another. And we have to understand that's not an accident. Our government intentionally uses the media, and we don't even realize the connection between government and media, but uses the media to create the social structure in this country. And so the brother said we need to hold the stars, the actors and actresses accountable. And I feel like not only hold them accountable, but help them understand the power that they have. Help those people in Love and Hip Hop and all that understand the role they're playing in destroying our culture and our community so that we can take charge of stopping it. There's always going to be somebody inviting us to act a fool on TV and to create a negative image of ourselves. But when we start to understand how crucial that is in creating our experience and our reality, then we can say, no, let's not do it. We can have more Dave Chappelle's who say, no, you're not going to use me to destroy my community for any amount of money. And so I think that's something we really need to pay attention to, more attention to. And it's also a natural form of power that we don't have to ask someone else to for permission and ask a system to stop. We can just say, no, we're not going to participate in creating these images of ourselves. And that's very important, especially for our youth also, and especially for these people who will just kill us because of the prejudices in their mind. We have to realize how these prejudices are being formed in people's minds, not just why, that's important too, but how, so that we can stop our own participation in creating that. And the second point I want to make is that you asked the question, can we get justice in the system? And that's been a part of this wonderful discussion. And I think whether we can or not, I don't particularly personally feel that after 500 years that we're about to all of a sudden get justice in a system that, as someone said, was created against us in the first place. But what we have to realize is that we don't have to ask a system for justice. We are powerful beings created by nature, God, whatever you want to call it. And part of the problem that we've had in this country is that we continue to see a system as more powerful than us. And that's a fundamental aspect of what's going wrong. As long as we see something else is more powerful and we have to fight them, ask them, request of them, wait for them to change. No, we can create our own reality as human beings, and I think that's something that we really have to understand as a community, because we can spend the rest of eternity trying to fight somebody, trying to get somebody else to respect us. We just have to respect ourselves and understand our natural power and do what we need to do, and the rest will follow. And that's those are the points that I wanted to make, and I want to thank you. I hope to hear more of this. I really enjoy what everybody said.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody. I'm going to wrap it up. I don't want to take advantage of people's time. I know it's New Year's Eve. I know the good Reverend got a sermon to prepare for watch night, I believe.
Well, I'm not preaching this year.
You're not preaching. Well, I'm good.
But I'm gonna be there though. I got to plan a service.
Well, your church is lucky to have you, man. It's amazing to hear you speak, man. I mean, coming back to watch you, I mean, you are a true leader among men. And I know you was tear gassed this summer. I mean, you did a lot of great things on the front lines down in Ferguson. And your community is blessed to have somebody like you in leadership. I just want to say that, Brother Tremaine. And it was an honor to have you on the show. So what will be the best way to get in touch with you? And I mean, what will be the best way to keep in touch? And you got any closing words about?
Well, you can all keep in touch with me through my Facebook page, just Tremaine Combs. You can find me on Facebook, my church Facebook page, Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, St. Charles, Missouri. My group's Facebook page, Clergy United. We have a Facebook page, and also, anybody that, I'm always open to talk and discuss, because I believe that one of the things that our black church is lacking is organic intellectualism, and I love engaging my people and other people in dialogue, reason, debate, and dialogue that is spirit-filled and uplifting. So you can always email me at pastortmc74@gmail.com. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate the two brothers the other brothers that were on the call, and my sister from East St. Louis. God bless you. Thank you for your work in this movement, and just keep praying for me that I would be faithful to the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ that is liberative and pushes for personal, social, and collective responsibility.
Thank you, Brother Tremaine. And Sister Renee, I know you got a show that comes on Blog Talk that's very popular and very empowering and informative.
Yeah, thank you. I'm on tonight. I was kind of juggling in my mind if I was going to be on tonight, but I think I will be on during the show tonight.
Okay.
It'll be at 8 p.m. Central Time.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, on Blog Talk.
On Blog Talk, what's the rundown with Renee? I mean, how can we find it on Blog Talk?
Yeah, under Your Mama Black.
Your Mama Black. Your Mama Black. L-Y-O Mama Black. Yeah. I mean, y'all got a great show, though, there. You are one of the leaders of the top, being very progressive and very informative and empowering show. And also, I want to wish you a very early, happy Last Affirmation Day. So your birthday is on January 2nd, so I know about that.
Yeah.
So I hope you have a great time. I hope you be off for that day.
I know.
Yeah, I hope you be off. Yeah, thank you for calling in and listening and offering input. And also, I believe it's Sister from New York, Sister Ali. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I want to give you a close. I know you got, we talked about what we're going on with you being a targeted individual. And can you just give us some contact information for you?
Oh, I'll give you my phone. My phone number is area code 929-232-0031. I have a YouTube channel. It's called My Rosa Parks Moment. And I also have an email, myrosaparksmoment@ gmail.com. And my name is Jami, Jaami.
Well, thank you, Sister Ali, for that. And I also want to let everybody know, like the sister from East St. Louis, she's part of the organization. They have the Black People's Grand Jury taking place this weekend, upcoming weekend in St. Louis on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be at the Ambassador, which is at 9800 Halls Ferry Road, St. Louis, Missouri. Well, then it's at the Ambassador, 9800 Halls Ferry Road, St. Louis. The Black People's Grand Jury, what should have happened in the Darren Wilson Grand Jury. It's going to be in the blackface this time. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. And I want to thank everybody on the show listening as well as calling in for participating in this very important discussion. You can never talk too much about black people because black lives do matter. In the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you all madly. Keep on producing and pushing, and we'll see y'all sometime in the new year. Take care, everybody.